You hear the signal to line up. You march forward with your comrades, side by side. In the distance, you can faintly make out the enemy banners and the outlines of their formation. You take a deep breath, your hands clench up, grasping your weapons firmly. Trying your best to not start shaking, you look at the faces of the men standing next to you, only to be met by their uneasy expressions. So instead, you channel your thoughts inward. You close your eyes and think of your childhood, running along the shoreline of the beach on that hot summer day, eating roasted chestnuts as the autumn leaves fell to the ground around you. Your parents carrying you off to bed when you fell asleep after a day filled with winter activities in the snow. Then you think of your first love, that first kiss you had on that moonlit night, and gazing up at the sky afterwards, feeling like there's nothing you can do, and that the entire world is in your grasp. Somewhere along the trail of memory, without even realizing it, you started crying. You tried desperately to wipe the tears from your eyes, but to no avail. This is where my journey ends, you think to yourself. Today I die. Then you hear it.
We shall never surrender!
But they'll never take our freedom!
I bid you stand! Men of the West!
To embolden your soldiers, to steady their souls and your own, to proclaim what you are fighting for, to simply say those last few words. These are the reasons for the battle speech. Many of times have they been used in real life and in the medium of film, and it's easy to see why. With just a few words you can express so much emotion and captivate everybody present, be they the warriors that stand before you or the audience watching beyond the fourth wall. Throughout the history of cinema, there have been many examples of films featuring, or in some cases revolving entirely around epic historical battles, and in these we can see some of the best battle speeches ever put on screen. It may not be the most historically accurate film, but William Wallace's speech to his fellow Scotsmen before the Battle of Stirling Bridge is really well done. Short and to the point, Wallace calls on his countrymen to fight the English, to risk losing their lives for a small chance at becoming free men.
Aye. Fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
From a film and battle speech in which the English are the antagonists, here is one where they are portrayed as the heroes defying the odds. It is Henry V's speech before the Battle of Agincourt on St. Crispin's Day. The English king and titular protagonist prepares his soldiers for the upcoming battle, in which they are going to be heavily outnumbered. You know that the speech is going to be brilliant if it was written by one of the greatest writers in human history, William Shakespeare, and oh, how it is. The poetry of words, combined with Kenneth Branagh's one hell of a performance, is something to behold. The English king proclaims with a smile on his face that he shall face the enemy with courage, that he shall shed his blood on this day, and anyone that does the same shall become a brother of his, and shall be remembered for years to come.
Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot, but he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in their mouths as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son, and Crispian shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England, now abed, shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whiles any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day!
In the 1960 epic Spartacus, directed by one of the greats, Stanley Kubrick, we're presented with two speeches from opposing sides, cut together to examine them side by side. Crassus makes a very formal speech in front of the Roman Senate and its army, in which he promises to bring an end to the slave rebellion and to restore peace and prosperity to Rome.
I promise the living body of Spartacus, for whatever punishment you may deem fit, that, or his head, this I vow by the spirits of all my forefathers. This I have sworn in the temple that guards their bones.
Spartacus, on the other hand, gives a much more personal speech to his followers. No, to his brothers in arms. He recalls all they have already accomplished and laments that they will have to fight once more in order to earn their freedom. He reassures them that their cause is just, and that he shall lead them till the end, where he would much rather be here, fighting with them, a poor slave fighting for his freedom among brothers, than a rich citizen of Rome living of the suffering of others.
Traveled a long ways together. We fought many battles, won great victories. Now, instead of taking ship for our homes across the sea, we must fight again. Maybe there's no peace in this world. For us or for anyone else, I don't know. But I do know that as long as we live, we must stay true to ourselves. I do know that we're brothers, and I know that we're free.
Not a battle speech in the sense that we've seen so far, in which a commander rouses his troops for an upcoming singular battle. Winston Churchill's speech in the darkest hour is more of a war speech. A speech in which he addresses not just the soldiers, but an entire nation. To persevere, to withstand, to fight against the tyranny that is sweeping mainland Europe. Churchill makes it clear they shall fight with all the strength that they possess, that they shall never surrender.
We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender!
There are times, though, in which simple words, a simple speech, is not enough. Times where one must look to another form of expression to steady themselves, to prepare for the battle to come. That is precisely what both sides did in the Battle of Rorke's Drift, featured in the 1964 film Zulu. On one side the Zulus, fighting to reclaim their land against a foreign invader. On the other the British, caught in this desperate last stand and just trying to survive. Before the Zulu warriors advance on the Welsh encampment, they sing chants to raise their courage and to intimidate their enemy. But before they are able to charge, they are met with a counter-offensive, so to speak of, from the Welsh side. At this point, the Welsh soldiers are exhausted, and their morale is close to breaking. They have already endured many attacks from the Zulus. How can they endure more? They shall surely die. At this moment, one of the soldiers starts to sing Men of Harlech, a song about the 7-year siege of Harlech Castle and their ancestors' bravery in it. Soon, all the other soldiers join in, taking courage and strength from the patriotic Welsh battle song. Now they are ready to defy their enemy once more, to show them that they shall not surrender, that Welshmen will not yield.
You think the Welsh can't do better than that, Owen?
Well, they've got a very good base section, mind. But no top tenors, that's for sure.
Stop your dreaming. Can't you see their spear points gleaming? See their warrior pennons streaming to this battlefield.
Sing!
Men of Harlech, stand ye steady.
Come on, sing!
Cannot be ever said ye. For the battle we are ready.
The two songs meet each other in the open plains seconds before the start of battle. A sound of song before the sound of battle. And the silence of death. Other times, a warrior needs spiritual guidance and clarity before going into battle. A conversation with your inner self and with the gods you believe in. A conversation through prayer. Before the climactic final battle in The 13th Warrior, an action Viking film based very loosely on the story of Beowulf and the real historical writings of Ahmad ibn Fadlan, the remaining warriors face almost certain doom as the monstrous Vandal horde approaches. The main character, Ibn Fadlan, knows how bleak the situation is. In what could be his final moment, he finds solace in prayer to Allah. He laments the many words not spoken and actions not taken in his life, but shows happiness in having finally made a good choice, in being here to stand against this darkness.
Merciful Father, I have squandered my days with plans of many things. This was not among them. But at this moment, I beg only to live the next few minutes well.
After seeing this, and being joined by their wounded leader, the Viking warriors begin a battle prayer of their own. They call upon the memories of their ancestors. Even if they may fall this day, they shall do so with honor and bravery, and join them in the great hall to live forever.
Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother and my sisters and my brothers. Lo, there do I see the line of my
people, back to the beginning.
Lo, they do call to me.
They bid me take my place among them.
In the halls of Valhalla,
Where the brave
may live
forever.
Though they are of different religions, the surviving warriors stand united as brothers of faith and battle. Together they honor their fallen leader, who now makes his way to the afterlife. Why do people fight battles, fight wars? As we've seen, they fight for honor, glory, for their people, for a just cause. Yes, sometimes they do, but many times they fight for land, for money, for greed, for their own selfish desires. Many times it would be better not to fight, to let peace prevail and to avoid needless death. After all, shouldn't the task of humanity be to create, nurture and love, not to destroy and hate? This notion is echoed in perhaps the greatest anti-war or anti-battle speech ever been put on film. Funny then that it comes from one of the great silent film stars in Charlie Chaplin. At the end of his 1940 film The Great Dictator, after being mistaken for the titular dictator Heinkel, a poor Jewish barber is forced to make a rousing speech in front of his troops. However, instead of speaking about the glory of victory and their certain triumph over the enemy, he lays forth his soul and talks about how he would much rather see mankind help one another, no matter the differences in their religion, ethnicity, and so forth. He talks about how the people of this world have lost empathy and think now only with a cold, calculating mind and barely feel a thing with their machine hearts. But this doesn't need to be the case. The people of the world still hold the power to change themselves and this world for the better, to choose peace instead of war, and if there truly be no other alternative, to fight in the name of freedom, not for some dictator who only destroys and enslaves.
Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Many of the battle speeches we've looked at so far come from, or are at least inspired by a historical event, and our real-world history is almost never completely black and white, but filled with countless nuanced shades of grey. In the realm of fantasy, however, an absolute evil can exist, a force of overwhelming darkness that threatens to engulf the world and must be defeated by the forces of good, or else all is lost. And in the realm of fantasy, it is hard to find a better example of this than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Here, one can find numerous examples of excellent battle speeches. One could go with examples like Eomer's speech to his riders before riding out of Edoras, or Gandalf's speech to the soldiers of Gondor at the gates of Minas Tirith. There are two, however, that do in my mind stand out as being a cut above the rest. Firstly, is Aragorn's speech to the joint forces of the Men of the West before the Black Gates of Mordor, in which King Elessar proclaims that on this day humanity shall fight to the bitter end.
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day. An hour of wolves and shattered shields when the age of men comes crashing down. But it is not this day. This day we fight. By all that you hold dear, On this good earth, I bid you stand! Men of the West!
But in my opinion, even better than that is Theoden's speech to the Rohirrim before the Battle of Pelennor Fields. In fact, I do believe that this is my favorite scene in all of film. I've had to have watched this at least 50 times in my life, and it never fails to give me goosebumps. With the rising sun, the forces of Rohan arrive at the fields of Pelennor, to be met with a black sea of orcs besieging Minas Tirith. A sight as grim as this is enough to inflict fear into even the most courageous and experienced soldiers. Even King Theoden himself appears to be momentarily gripped with fear and panic, but he does not allow these dark emotions to overcome him. He steadies himself, and appearing tall and proud as a king of his people should, he goes forth to command his generals and address his troops. He does not hide the fact that this shall be a bloody affair. He embraces it. Riding along the front lines, touching his sword to the spears of his soldiers, he almost transcends his warrior spirit into them. The king fears not death and darkness, and neither now do his soldiers, for they know that at the head of them rides Theoden, son of Fengel, and they shall follow him to whatever end.
Arise, riders of Theoden! Spears shall be shaken! Shields shall be splintered! A sword day! A red day! And the sun rises!
Whatever happens, stay with me. I'll look after you.
Rise now! Rise now! Rise! Rise for ruin and the world's ending! Death!
And as the horns of the host sound the fields, the very walls of Gondor's capital, now the sons of Eorl ride forth as a wave of good to banish the darkness before them, not a shroud of fear or doubt in their hearts. Instead, they carry with them the golden words of their king. That is the power of the best battle speech ever put on film.